the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. I really like Jon Husted, and it's not the name drop all the time to say that we know a lot of the same people. We're friends with a lot of the same people. I've met him on many occasions. I've been on conference calls with him as lieutenant governor when policy decisions were being made, complicated discussions. I can just say that about Jon Husted, he's a very pro-business guy, really wants to see business development in Ohio work. So naturally, he would be associated with business interests, and that's what the whole case of the First Energy thing. That's why a lot of Republicans don't like talking about the First Energy case. I like talking about the First Energy case because the reason why First Energy was in trouble was not because they had a business model that failed. They are energy providers that there's a couple of nuclear power plants in upper Ohio that were struggling to stay open under Obama-era regulations. Now, when you know how lawfare works or regulatory warfare works, clearly what Democrats are trying to do, and if you spend any time in Columbus and know anybody, like I do in Columbus, it's why you say, I know this and I know that, because people want to know how can you make an opinion about something if you don't have some firsthand knowledge of it. And I do have firsthand knowledge. I do know some of these people. I've talked to them. I've been in situations where been in entrenched warfare with them, and I think Jon Husted's a great senator. I love having him in with Bernie Moreno, but because Sherrod Brown is going to make a play, you have all this liberal media coming out and trying to attach scandal to Jon Husted where it's not appropriate. So I can say that First Energy did give around $1 million in a roundabout way to Jon Husted. I think it was in 2017. You can understand why. I certainly understand why. Why they wanted just because it was determined in the same way that corruption cases against Trump attempted to label him in a certain way. That was lawfare at work. The House bill that tried to protect First Energy from being shut down because of Obama era and Biden era progressive attempts at shutting down the Ohio energy grid. We wanted Republicans to keep those guys open because we didn't want the energy grid to be completely dependent on. If left to their own devices, that's what Democrats would have had. That's what the Amy Actons and the David Peppers would have had. This is what they want, is renewables, the complete nutcase viewpoint that we would just have solar panels and wind farms. That would be the complete grid, and they were going to destroy all the rest of the grid so you'd have no other choice. That was their belief, and that was their radicalism, and that's why First Energy was being put out of business through policy. There's no way the bar kept getting raised. There's no way cost of compliance. They could stay open. They were purposely being shut down by policy, Democrat, radical, progressive policy of a globalist nature, and that's why California has brownouts. You didn't see brownouts in Ohio, did you? That's because Republicans fought to keep your power grid intact. Now, if you go to Greenville and you see the wind turbines, you see whether these progressives have gotten away with it. I've been in Columbus. I've been in the Rotunda with lobbyists who are bragging about acquiring land for solar panel farms. There's one big one in Lebanon, just southeast of Monroe, a big span of land out there, about where Mason Montgomery Road dumps out on the Kyle Station. There's a big wind farm, big solar farm out there. There's a few of them out and about. I know of another one up by just north of Dayton, very close, just a little outside the I-70 corridor. North of that, there's a large solar farm there. Those aren't good. Those aren't good things. Those were imposed by Democrat politics in order to cripple the Ohio grid, get rid of nuclear energy, so you had no choice but to go with solar or wind turbines, and get rid of coal and oil, natural gas, everything that made sense, all the good, trustworthy sources of power, they wanted to kill. And that was going on in this time period. Of course, if you're lieutenant governor, as Jon Husted was, you're concerned about that kind of thing. And so are the people that we mutually know. When I watch this case, this First Energy case, if I was the First Energy executives, I'd make that the whole case is about how they had their company destroyed, and their attorneys are not doing a good job of putting that out there. They're defending indefensible act, which is Obama-era policies destroying their business, and then looking for some way to stay open, and Republicans trying to get them a bridge to get there while they dealt with all the out-of-state regulatory stuff coming from the federal government to try and destroy the energy grid, the power grid of Ohio. That's what the First Energy case is all about. And all this Sam Randazzo suicide and the way money was handled, when in all corporate events, you can judge people based on how they handle pressure. So you want to have meetings that have a lot of pressure in them. You want to have leadership seminars that have a lot of pressure in them, because you want to see how people make mistakes. How soon do they make mistakes, and how do they handle mistakes? You want to know in leadership how they handle that. And in the case of how money got transferred to try and save the power grid in Ohio, there was a lot of weaknesses that were found. That doesn't mean these people were corrupt. It means they were trying to keep businesses open that were trying to stay afloat under a hostile Obama environment. Obama trying to destroy the energy grid to do what Bill Gates wanted, which is zero emission society. They were trying to force an earth first religion on all Ohioans, and Republicans are staying in the way of that. That's not corrupt. That's logic. But Republicans didn't defend themselves very well. They didn't handle the money very well through Householder and Randazzo. And, I can't say that there was anything that Jon Husted could have done better under those conditions. I mean, we were going through the COVID lockdowns. The Dwyer administration was trying to plug in Amy Acton, who was trying to shut everything down. There was so much corruption that was attached to all those shutdowns, lockdowns, keep people from getting to church. And I was on many calls, and I know the heart of Jon Husted. I heard him. I heard his voice during all that. I know where he's at, trying to help save who he could from being shut down by bad Democrat policies. COVID was bad Democrat policy, and the energy destruction of the power grids, as they did in California, they were trying to do here in Ohio, that was bad policy, and he was trying to help wherever he could. And that's the state of this case. And here, listen to this. Here's how the media slants it. Listen to this this phony report of the court trial where they have a couple executives from First Energy on trial, trying to throw them in jail for corruption, just for trying to stay open because the politics of the day, which is the story, the whole story. I would love to be their attorney. I'd do a much better job than the guys they hired. I'll tell you that. Listen to these idiots.
It's been 5 weeks since the First Energy trial started. Executives accused of bribing public officials in order to get their way. Next week, the defense is set to call Senator Jon Husted to the stand. Our Columbus Bureau reporter
and he did testify remotely.
On this story for years
he did a good
now,
job.
Tonight, she is asking,
Jon Husted is a great guy.
May not be able to testify in Ohio, but can campaign here.
But they're trying to make a big thing about it. Now, he campaigned in Ohio, but he couldn't come to testify at this phony trial.
Case accusing former First Energy executives of being involved in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme to pass House Bill 6, providing the energy company with $1 billion bailout and raising utility bills.
Agreed.
For years, we've examined the close ties between First Energy and major political players, including with U.S. Senator Jon Husted. Company executives say that Husted worked with them to pass HB 6 after they helped fund his campaign for lieutenant governor.
HB 6 was good legislation.
And was set to be a defense witness on Friday, March 13th.
I could defend HB 6 all day long.
With anything, I'll always
In fact, I'll expand on it in my blog.
From hundreds of miles away.
Given the war, availability is not
These lawyers have not done a good job defending HB 6. What was done
against Iran, but
Jon Husted is a good guy.
Are you flying home to testify?
A video we obtained shows Husted flying from the Capitol to Columbus Thursday evening. We discovered that the senator is set to speak at a fundraiser.
Explain to Ohioans
So
what
Lincoln
he
Day
means
dinner.
by unavailable or dealing with the war if he's in fact in the state raising money for his embattled Senate campaign.
Hudson Democrat Casey
Not
Weinstein
embattled.
was a state witness in the trial.
That's a Democrat
Believes that
talking.
Husted just doesn't want to deal with the publicity.
He's so deeply intertwined in this whole case.
I reached out to Husted's team, and spokesperson Josh Eck disputed the defense attorneys.
Our team never said that the senator needed to stay in Washington to monitor the war.
Eck explained that Husted offered many dates in person, but none worked for the changing trial schedule. Nonpartisan business law professor Eric Chafee explains that he understands why the senator could be reluctant to testify in person.
When you're trying to get elected, being associated with what's one of, if not the largest bribery scandal in the history of the state.
All these
is
guys are
something that's
Democrats
really
talking
kind of a
here.
bad look.
Is a GOP fundraising dinner more important than testifying in person?
Absolutely not. Morgan, I don't think anybody's surprised to hear that an elected official that's going to be on the ballot in a couple of months, has to raise money for that race. But that has never been his priority.
Several hours after we reached out to Husted's team, they told us they just found out that his testimony had been moved up from Friday to Wednesday, a day where he does have votes in the Senate. At the Columbus Bureau, I'm Morgan Trow reporting.
That's the liberal media doing the heavy lifting for Democrats.
Return to Star Wars in the 90s.
And they're trying to make it look bad that he went to the Lincoln dinner to speak for a fundraiser where you need money. This is all trying to help Sherrod Brown in indirect ways. And that's what the whole First Energy thing. This trial is all about Democrats trying to claim power and use a made-up scandal. The HB 6 bill was not a bad bill. The bailout of when government causes some a business failure, which is what the case was at First Energy, government policy created the failure. So what recourse do they have to satisfy the wrongs done against them? And HB 6 was trying to keep them from going out of business. And the threat didn't come from actions they took. It came from actions government took against them. Just as occurred during the COVID lockdowns, which David Pepper and Amy Acton created the policies while she was sharing the spotlight with Jon Husted. So he knows exactly how this stuff works. And he knows that this whole trial was a show trial. And they're just trying to drag him out, put him on camera, and put him on his heels, say, why did you try to help First Energy? It's been deemed in the public eye, because of media reports like this, to be corrupt. Why were you associated with them? Why did they give you $1 million in 2017? Well, because they're a business trying to operate in Ohio, and they want representation. And that's why they supported my campaign. It's a pretty easy statement. But since the media has labeled the whole First Energy thing as a corrupt endeavor, and people have gone to jail for it because of the way they handled the pressure was created by Democrats in order to destroy the power grid. And all Republicans are trying to do is keep it open and alive, and trying to create policy that would take the edge off the Democrat policies of the Obama administration, which is a religion to them. And it was an attack on our infrastructure. And that's what the whole case is. That's what this case in Columbus is right now. And, Jon Husted has nothing to be ashamed of. And I know that from firsthand experience. I know what he was involved in. I know what was going on behind the scenes, behind HB 6. I know the characters who ended up going to jail. And did they handle the pressure correctly? I think they should have handled the pressure better. But the pressure was created by the Democrats in order to gain power and destroy the energy grid of Ohio. That's the story. And you have all these Democrats, including this news organization, out there trying to make Houston look bad for going to a Lincoln Day dinner, raising money for a campaign because he has to be able to defeat Sherrod Brown, and they don't want him to do that. They want him in court testifying for a phony trial against a bunch of executives they plucked away in order to make a monkey trial out of it, to fit a Democrat playbook where they destroyed Ohio infrastructure on purpose. Imagine if we talk about Pearl Harbor. Everybody understands Pearl Harbor was a bad thing. Japanese bombed American infrastructure and killed people in the process. And then people can agree, yeah, we went to war because the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. But what do you do when a Democrat party bombs or deliberately tries to destroy your infrastructure? Who do you fight? Do you go bomb them? You get into a plane and bomb their headquarters? What do? You got to fight them. And that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to cause a destruction of the energy grid in Ohio through policies. It was through policy. We don't typically associate policymaking with war, but it's very much war. What the Democrats were doing was war. And Jon Husted was trying to help through the Republican Party the impact people were being had suffering against them. First Energy being a victim of that aggression of the energy investment they made in the state, and having their company destroyed in the process. Of course, that representation. If you're trying to be a good Republican, you're trying to keep the power grid intact in the United States and in Ohio, especially Ohio. And everything Jon Husted did was on the up and up. It was all good. But the lawyers are not defending it right against these kinds of socialist Democrat operatives that are part of this Channel 5 report out of Columbus. And all the people involved in that you heard talking are part of the problem. They're trying to frame Jon Husted into a category where he was doing something corrupt when all he's trying to do is preserve the power grid by working with First Energy to save them so they wouldn't be torpedoed by the Obama administration through ridiculous policies that were just as stupid as COVID when Amy Acton got put into position through the DeWine administration to shut down businesses, the same kind of businesses that didn't make it. Billions of dollars were incurred in losses because of COVID, because of bad policies. And those same bad policies were behind stay home, because nothing gives zero emissions better than staying home, socially distancing, and shutting down your companies because you can't work in an environment where you can't stay 6 feet apart. And all those dumb policies cost many businesses their complete industry. The same dumb policies were enacted for this whole First Energy thing, which was the First Energy couldn't stay open because of the energy policies of the Obama administration. So, who's going to pay them back for their losses made by bad decisions by government? Government caused the problem. That is the court case. And that's what they should be talking about instead of trying to duck and jive at airports, because they're trying. You got these gotcha media personalities out there trying to make a big deal that Houston went to a fundraiser and didn't show up for this phony trial because they're trying to hook him and try to make Sherrod Brown look good and get Sherrod Brown to win. This is the way that Democrats play, and Republicans don't play hard enough back. And when they do, they don't defend themselves very well. They end up going to jail, which then makes it look like it's a conspiracy. And they did a bunch of things wrong, and all they did is they didn't handle the pressure very well. When Democrats created it, they were trying to keep the power grid going rather than go to the media and talk about it the way I'm talking about it. They went inward. They circled the wagons and let themselves be attacked like a bunch of fools, and took it on the chin when they shouldn't have. Should have defended themselves a lot better. And they didn't do a very good job of that. And Jon Husted tried to help where he could. He got drug into it because a lot of Republicans didn't defend the turf well enough. And these executives, going through this trial, hired the wrong kind of lawyers because they're not arguing the case the way they should have. The case was always out there. And there's rules that these attorneys, rules of conduct, the judges won't allow certain emotional testimony to be presented. But there's the court of public opinion. They should be working the ropes outside that courtroom. And the way I am right now, they should have been doing all along. And because of it, they're probably going to lose. They're probably going to go to jail. They could throw $1,000 at these stupid attorneys that's charged by $500 on the hour to basically say nothing and to go along with the Democrat playbook. Democrats know that that's the way it's going to go because they set the ground rules. And Republicans don't do a good job of defending themselves. And they should get better at it because they didn't handle the pressure well. That's what they're guilty of, not handling the pressure well. Pressure Democrats created to shut down infrastructure in Ohio that would have led to brownouts and power shortages everywhere if Republicans didn't stop it, or at least slow it down till Trump got back in office. So that's probably the best thing that saved Ohio's power grid was Trump's first term. But if the plan was always to see First Energy and all those other guys die on the vine and be choked out so that there would be this Bill Gates zero energy emission world that they tried to enact through COVID policies. They were trying to do it through energy policy, and they were choking out companies like First Energy. And who's gonna put the money back in their pockets for that was caused by stupid government policies? Who? This trial certainly isn't doing it. Only people fighting for it were Jon Husted, and that's why you want to vote for him to be in the Senate. Him and Bernie Moreno are great. Bernie Moreno does a great job of defending things. Jon Husted's a very nice guy. Not that Bernie Moreno isn't, but you got to go out there and spill the beans and let people know what's really going on. You can't just take it. You can't just let sabotage Democrat reporters like this lady on this report they just did. You can't let them set the tone for why did you go to a fundraiser and you didn't go to your trial. Jon Husted did do a phone-in Teams kind of call at trial. He did give testimony. He did a good job at it. But the trial itself is phony, baloney, and they're looking for validation to the illegal court procedures by having him show up. So the best thing he could do is not give it credence. That's how you handle that. He's a senator, and they're attacking him, trying to knock him off so they can put their guy Sherrod Brown in. And they're all corrupt. And if you let those people have their way, they will destroy your power grid. They will drive up your prices. They'll have everything screwed up, like they always do. Just think back at COVID. That's when they had their policies cranking out the best. That's when they got what they wanted, and you saw what they did with it. And people like Jon Husted have always tried to stand up against it. And we'll continue to do that. That's why we want him as senator. He does a great job. Love Jon Husted. And I can say that because I personally have interactions with him. I have had him, and I know the kind of person he is, and he's a good guy. And he means the utmost with respect to business infrastructure, and those that make life better in Ohio for everybody. That's the kind of senator you want. And that's what he's been under fire, and I think he handled all the pressure very well. He handled a really tough situation really well, and they're trying to drag him into this so they can get Sherrod Brown elected. And Sherrod Brown's been a disaster all this time for many years, and you don't see them doing hit pieces on him like this. It's only Jon Husted trying to attach First Energy to him because they think that that's a way to sink his campaign, and it's not going to work. The case with First Energy is all about government corruption and stupidity to try and impose a destruction of fossil fuels, to impose renewables on people who didn't want it. And that would jack up energy costs, make it so that it was harder to get energy, harder to run your air conditioners in August in Ohio, and have brownouts like they have in California because they were trying to impose the same kind of policies here in Ohio. And people like Jon Husted stood up against it. And that's why they hate him. And that's why they don't want him to be a senator. This is why they're trying to attach him to this First Energy scandal. It's a totally made-up scandal from the outset. Totally made up by Democrats. And Republicans should have defended themselves a lot better and didn't. Maybe they will going forward. And I'll put the talking points for why HB 6 was such a good legislation on my blog so that everybody can run it off and read it in the legislature. It was great legislation, and that should be the talking points they talk to when they get interviewed in hit pieces in the Capitol. When people put microphones in front of your mouth and want you to run away from householder and everybody else, you should be using these talking points to defend the defense of First Energy, not run away from it. These poor executives, I feel sorry for these guys. Oh yeah, you have oh, they're rich guys. Don't feel sorry for them. They deserve what they're getting. It's the Bolsheviks of our society saying, hang the rich people. They're greedy energy executives that were trying to operate fraudulent elections and relationships with political leaders and influencing our representatives. No, that's not what was going on at all, and they should have defended it easily. All the attorneys should have been making that the centerpiece of this court case, because that is the centerpiece of the court case, and it has been from the beginning. And I've said all along, when I bring it up, people are kind of like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get attached to the first energy thing. You really should, because it's just as bad as COVID was, and it's when government makes bad decisions that shut down infrastructure, and it's like bombing our infrastructure in Ohio with an aggressive multinational effort to destroy Ohio's power grid. It's just as vicious as Pearl Harbor was, and that's how you should have looked at it. That's how everybody should have looked at it. And Republicans are trying to defend against it, and they got hung on a corruption charge because all the evil elements defined the high ground of what the debate was about. They framed the debate through the news media to make it look like fraud when it was really an attack and stupidity by the Obama administration, which a lot of these people support. A lot of the same people who are going against Houston here are the same people fighting against Trump and fighting against Trump policies. And if it wasn't for Trump policies, we probably would have lost First Energy completely. We probably would have lost all of our great infrastructure power in Ohio. And a lot of things would be a lot different. And thank goodness Trump was in office both times, because it likely saved Ohio from that fate that California certainly saw. Anyways, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And when you get a chance to vote for Jon Husted, he's a great guy. I can personally testify for him. Great dude. And if I was him, yeah, I'd go to the Lincoln dinner all day long, and I would sandbag on the court testimony, because nothing good comes out of it. It's all a Democrat playbook set up, meant to try and make their position look good, and try and prop up Sherrod Brown, because that's all these Democrats really want, is to take down Jon Husted and prop up Sherrod Brown. And talk about corruption. That guy has more corruption hanging behind him than anybody out there. And it's funny to hear Democrats try to talk about corruption. They always talk about in other people what they're doing themselves. And there was nothing that created more corruption than COVID. And that COVID corruption came from Amy Acton policies. David Pepper. Bunch of scumbags. Yeah, we're going to get you. The games you play aren't going to play out this time. We're gonna break that one open, because it's easy to do. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon. Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.